The ground trembled violently beneath the grand temples of Atlantis, as cracks snaked through golden spires and marble walls. Citizens screamed, their voices drowned out by the roar of the ocean, as waves crashed over the concentric rings of the city. In a single night, the heart of an empire was swallowed by the sea, leaving no trace of its former glory. This is the story everyone knows, a powerful civilization blessed by the gods that fell victim to its own hubris and vanished into the abyss. But what if this familiar tale is only part of the story? What if Atlantis' destruction wasn't just a result of greed and moral decay? What if it holds a secret far darker, one that we have yet to uncover? Today we explore the untold story of Atlantis and attempt to answer the question, what led to the downfall of Atlantis? The story of Atlantis begins not with mortal hands but with the god Poseidon. He was the mighty ruler of the seas, a deity whose power could shape the very earth itself. Poseidon fell deeply in love with a mortal woman named Plato, a love so profound that he sought to protect her and their descendants in a way that no mortal could ever imagine. To keep them safe from the turmoils of the world, Poseidon raised a vast island from the ocean floor, Atlantis. This island was no ordinary landmass. Poseidon shaped it with his divine will, creating a land of unimaginable beauty, rich with resources and fertile soil. Its layout was a work of art, designed for both practicality and awe. The capital city was built with concentric rings of land and water, a design intended to protect the heart of the island while showcasing its grandiosity. The city itself was a wonder, with palaces and temples that gleamed under the sun. At its center stood the temple of Poseidon, a magnificent structure housing a grand statue of the god, made from gold, ivory and precious stones. Poseidon's children were the first rulers of Atlantis, and they were bestowed with divine powers over the land. These kings, 10 in total, were charged with overseeing different regions of the island, each with a descendant from Poseidon, and their bloodline was considered sacred. Atlantis, under their reign, prospered as one of the most advanced civilizations in the ancient world. They built integrated irrigation systems and established trade routes that spanned the globe. The Atlanteans, guided by their divine rulers, flourished in ways that seemed impossible for other ancient civilizations. Their architecture was unparalleled, the agriculture ahead of its time, and the military strength unmatched. They lived in harmony with the island, respecting the divine power that had created it. The life of an Atlantean was one of unparalleled luxury and sophistication. The people of Atlantis were deeply connected to their land and their gods, and they enjoyed a lifestyle that seemed impossible for any other civilization of the time. The island was filled with fertile plains and vast forests, and its cities were marvels of engineering. The capital city, with its intricate rings of land and water, was a true reflection of the wealth and power of the Atlantean people. In the city's grand homes, the wealthy and powerful enjoyed lives of luxury, surrounded by beautiful gardens, ornate decorations, and the finest materials. Marble columns rose alongside lush greenery, and gold statues adorned the streets. The people lived in harmony with nature, benefiting from the advanced agricultural techniques that transformed the land into a veritable paradise. The irrigation systems, which spanned the length of the island, ensured that crops flourished year-round, feeding the people and supporting their great city. The common people of Atlantis were skilled craftsmen and farmers, working the land to provide for their city's elite. Their labor ensured that Atlantis was able to continue its ascent to power and wealth. But it wasn't just the rich who lived in grandeur. The temples and palaces were available to all Atlanteans, and their citizens took pride in the beauty that surrounded them. Religion played an integral role in the daily life of the Atlanteans. The worship of Poseidon was central to their culture. The king and descendant of Poseidon ruled not only as a monarch, but also as the high priest, the earthly representative of the god. The temples of Poseidon were the heart of the city, and religious ceremonies were a regular part of life, reinforcing the connection between the people and their divine protector. The kings of Atlantis were not mere mortals, they were divine beings, children of Poseidon himself, endowed with unimaginable power and responsibility. These 10 kings did not simply hold titles. They were the living embodiment of Atlantis' might and grandeur. Divided into 5 pairs of twins, they ruled over the 10 regions of the island, with a balance of strength, wisdom and devotion to their godly lineage. Each pair of twin kings carried the weight of their family's legacy, upholding the harmony that had once made Atlantis the envy of the world. The twin rulers of Atlantis were Atlas and Eumelus, Ampheris and Euaemon, Nessius and Autochthon, Elasipius and Mestor, Azeus and Diaprepes. At the heart of the island stood Atlas and Eumelus. Atlas, the High King and the more powerful of the two, governed over the central region, which housed the great capital city of Atlantis. This central land was the very lifeblood of the civilization, home to the most grandiose monuments, the finest temples and the wealthiest citizens. As High King, Atlas was the guiding force in shaping Atlantis' future, overseeing the growth of the city into a beacon of wealth and power. Eumelus, his twin brother, played a vital role in managing the cultural and spiritual aspects of the capital, ensuring that the people remained devoted to Poseidon and upheld the island's sacred traditions. Together they embodied the might of Atlantis and its divine favor. To the east, Ampheris and Euaemon ruled the fertile plains of Atlantis. Their region was a vital part of the island's prosperity, with vast estates of crops that fed not only Atlantis, but also its trade partners across the seas. The fertile lands they commanded were known for their abundance, and it was here that the island's agricultural success shone brightest. Cities in their domain flourished through trade, and the fertile land became the cornerstone of Atlantis' wealth. Ampheris and Euaemon were known for their diplomatic acumen and their ability to strengthen Atlantis' trade relationships with neighboring lands. In the southern regions, Nessius and Autochthon ruled over rich fields, valuable resources and some of the most strategic territories in the empire. Their lands produced a wealth of precious materials, from rare metals to fine textiles, contributing immensely to Atlantis' reputation as a commercial powerhouse. These southern territories also housed military fortifications, strategically placed to guard the island's southernmost points. The wealth and resources of the southern region made Nessius and Autochthon indispensable to Atlantis' economy, and their military might was a key element of the island's defense. To the north, Elasipius and Mestor ruled over mountainous lands rich in rare minerals and gemstones. These northern territories were known for their towering peaks, which hid treasure troves of precious stones and metals. It was here that the raw materials for Atlantis' technological marvels were sourced, from the gleaming columns of marble to the precious metals used in the construction of their grandiose buildings. Elasipius and Mestor were not only guardians of this wealth, but also key figures in maintaining the technological advancements that propelled Atlantis forward, especially in the fields of engineering and construction. Finally, on the western coast, where the island met the open ocean, Azeus and Diaprepes ruled the seas. Their region was the hub of Atlantis' naval power, the birthplace of its mighty fleets, and the center of its maritime technology. The western shores were the first to touch the Atlantic Ocean, and the Atlanteans here were known for their dominance over trade routes and exploration. Azeus and Diaprepes held command over the fleets that sailed across distant waters, ensuring Atlantis' supremacy over the seas and keeping the island connected to the distant lands through trade and conquest. Though united by their divine bloodline and shared rule, the 10 kings were not without their own ambitions. What had once been a unified system of governance began to crack as the rulers' desires for more wealth, power and influence led to growing rivalry among them. The kings of Atlantis, who had once worked in concert to ensure the island's prosperity, now found themselves locked in a competition. At the core of this division stood Atlas, whose ambition reached beyond the borders of his domain. As High King, he had already amassed vast wealth and influence, but he desired more. He looked to expand the reach of Atlantis, to conquer more lands and assert his control over all the realms. Despite his growing ambition, Eumelus, his twin brother, remained the stabilizing force in the capital, overseeing the cultural and spiritual unity of the island. But even Humulus could not halt the expansionist desires of Atlas, whose vision for Atlantis began to stretch beyond its borders. Meanwhile, the southern rulers, Nesseus and Autochtone, focused their efforts on strengthening Atlantis' military. Their strategic territories grew more fortified and their military power expanded, making them a formidable force in the empire. Their growing influence on the island's decisions began to rival that of the capital, as the southern region's wealth and military power became essential to maintaining the island's strength. In the east, Amphiris and Nuemon prospered through trade, securing a vast network of economic ties. However, their mercantile success was often at odds with the more militaristic rulers, and while they did not engage in the same power struggles, they were inevitably drawn into the conflicts between their fellow kings. Their wealth made them influential, but their focus on peace and trade kept them at a distance from the growing tensions that plagued Atlantis. In the north, Elasippus and Nestor turned inward, focusing on exploiting the riches of the land and perfecting the technological marvels of Atlantis. While their lands were rich in resources, their isolation from the power struggles that consumed the southern and central regions made them less politically involved. Yet, even they were drawn into the growing conflicts, as their wealth and technological advances made them a target for those seeking power. And in the west, Zeus and Diaprepes, masters of the sea, found their naval supremacy increasingly threatened. As tension between the kings grew, the once untouchable dominance of the western territories became more contested. Zeus and Diaprepes were known for their naval strategies and their ability to control the seas, but their control over trade routes and exploration came under pressure from the rival factions within Atlantis. As the unity between the kings began to falter, the people of Atlantis began to sense the growing discord. The 10 kings, once revered as divine stewards of Poseidon's will, were now seen as rulers blinded by their own ambitions. The harmony that had once defined Atlantis was lost, replaced by infighting and a relentless pursuit of power. The gods, too, grew uneasy. While some hoped for redemption, others saw the growing corruption as a clear sign that Atlantis had overstepped its bounds. Poseidon, who had once blessed the land with his divine favor, watched in growing sorrow as his creation spiraled towards destruction. The once unified rule of the 10 kings was now shattered, and the balance that had kept Atlantis safe was beyond repair. Atlantis was a civilization far ahead of its time, with advanced technologies and engineering marvels that were unmatched in the ancient world. The island's most remarkable features was its architecture, cities built with precision, the likes of which had never been seen before. The concentric rings of the capital city were not only a defense mechanism, but also a testament to the genius of the Atlantean people. Water, a crucial element for both defense and sustenance, flowed through the city, creating a breathtaking system of canals and waterways. The Atlanteans had a deep understanding of agriculture and the natural world, using advanced irrigation systems to transform barren lands into fertile soil. Their ability to manipulate the land and the water allowed them to feed a population that had grown to immense proportions. This mastery of nature extended beyond agriculture, as the Atlanteans were also pioneers in the use of metals, constructing tools, weapons, and machinery of remarkable durability. Their knowledge of medicine was equally advanced, with Atlantean healers using herbs, potions, and even rudimentary surgical techniques to cure ailments. The city's infrastructure was powered by a form of energy that remains a mystery to this day, rumored to be linked to the power of the gods themselves. Their naval technology was perhaps the most impressive of all. Atlantis boasted a fleet of ships that could travel vast distances, establishing trade routes and even colonies across the seas. The ships were faster, stronger, and more durable than anything seen in the ancient world, cementing Atlantis' position as a maritime superpower. But these advancements, impressive as they were, eventually became a double-edged sword. The very technologies that had helped the Atlantis survive also contributed to its eventual downfall, as the people grew increasingly reliant on their creations and lost sight of the divine guidance that had once led them. Atlantis, a civilization of untold grandeur and power, pushed the boundaries of human achievement further than any society before or since. Their advances in architecture, science and politics were astounding, but it was their exploration into the realms of immortality, energy manipulation and even the cosmos that truly marked their civilization as one that transcended the limits of the known world. Atlantis wasn't just a landmass on the map, it was a beacon of innovation that reached into the realms of the gods themselves. At the heart of Atlantis' advancements was their remarkable ability to control the elements. The Atlanteans didn't merely understand nature, they mastered it. They harnessed the power of the ocean, controlled the weather, and manipulated the forces of the earth in ways that would seem impossible to even the most advanced civilizations today. These technologies were not simply for convenience, they were powerful tools of immense influence. The Atlanteans used energy in ways that defy our understanding. It's said that they could manipulate the Earth's magnetic fields and channel natural forces into vast energy sources. This might have included tapping into geothermal energy, harnessing the power of the Earth's core, or even creating a network of energy that stretched across the land and under the sea. Some ancient texts speak of Atlantean machines that could absorb lightning, storing its power for use in everything, from agriculture to warfare. The use of advanced energy sources likely spurred the Atlanteans to build monumental structures, buildings that soared into the sky, crystal clear waters that powered cities, and vehicles that traversed vast distances, both on land and at sea. They used these advancements to live in luxury and dominate the surrounding lands. But these technologies weren't just marvels of engineering, they were linked to the very fabric of life in Atlantis, creating an infrastructure that allowed them to thrive in ways other civilizations could only dream of. The Atlanteans' greatest ambition, however, was the pursuit of immortality. They were not satisfied with merely prolonging life through the age-old methods of medicine and health. They sought to conquer death itself. Legends tell of their secretive quest to unlock the mysteries of life and death, a journey that took them deep into the realms of both science and mysticism. Atlantean scholars and priests, versed in the esoteric arts, believed that life itself was a form of energy, a force that could be manipulated. It is said that they discovered methods to prolong human life far beyond natural limits, using potions, elixirs, and even biological enhancements. Some accounts suggest that the Atlanteans even used sacred rituals to alter the very DNA of their rulers, ensuring that certain individuals would live for centuries without aging. These experiments likely had a dual purpose: to protect the elites of their society and to increase their power over time. But their experiments didn't stop at just extending life, they sought to create a form of artificial immortality. The advanced technologies developed in Atlantis could have been used to transfer consciousness from a mortal body into an eternal vessel, one that could continue to exist as long as the machine was functional. In this way, the Atlanteans might have sought to live forever, by merging their biological forms with technology. While their technological achievements were impressive, it was perhaps the Atlanteans' use of these advancements for control and conquest that set them apart from all other civilizations. Atlantis was not a peaceful utopia, far from it. The technological prowess that made them so formidable also made them a threat to surrounding lands. They developed advanced weaponry, powered by the very forces they had harnessed: lightning, earthquakes, and the power of the seas. The military technologies were capable of leveling entire cities with ease. The Atlanteans were rumored to have created vast fleets of ships that could travel great distances, some even suggesting that they ventured beyond the known world in search of new lands and resources. These ships could have been powered by advanced engines, perhaps even manipulating the flow of water beneath them for propulsion, creating a form of propulsion that was faster than anything seen in the ancient world. Moreover, the Atlanteans were capable of building massive fortresses and cities designed to withstand any siege. Some of the buildings may have been constructed using a form of living stone, Materials imbued with energy, possibly even a form of bioengineering that allowed the structure to heal themselves over time. Such feats of architecture and engineering showcase the Atlanteans' mastery of both science and magic. The Atlanteans didn't just confine their ambitions to the Earth, they sought to explore the cosmos. As their technological advances grew, so too did their understanding of the universe. Their knowledge of astronomy and the stars was unparalleled. It is believed that they used this knowledge to build massive observatories and tools that allowed them to navigate the heavens. Some suggest that their cosmic understanding may have allowed them to travel into space. There are accounts that speak of Atlanteans developing technology that could manipulate time and space. Whether these were mere myths or glimpses into a forgotten reality, the idea that Atlantis reached beyond their world to touch the stars is one of the more intriguing possibilities. If the Atlanteans were able to explore other planets or even make contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, it would explain their near-divine status in the ancient world. It also could provide insight into the level of their technological mastery, which reached the heights of what we might consider science fiction today. But as with all their endeavors, this pursuit of cosmic knowledge and interstellar exploration could have been their undoing. Their manipulation of celestial forces, like their experiments with immortality, may have angered the gods or disturbed the natural order of the universe. As the Atlanteans pushed further into these realms, developing technologies that controlled life, death, and even the stars themselves, they may have failed to recognize the limits of their own power. Every technological advancement, no matter how brilliant, came with its own risks. Their mastery of nature, while awe-inspiring, was ultimately a double-edged sword. In the span of a single night, Atlantis, once a shining jewel of the earth, vanished beneath the waves, leaving nothing but silence and the echoes of a forgotten world. The oceans reclaimed what was theirs, swallowing the grandeur of temples, palaces, and advanced technologies. But how could something so mighty, so beautiful, so indomitable, crumble so utterly? How does a civilization once blessed by gods vanish in the blink of an eye? The Atlanteans had begun to tamper with forces beyond their comprehension. They had unearthed ancient secrets long hidden from mankind, and with them came a terrible power, the ability to control the very elements themselves. Technologies emerged from the resource that no mortal was meant to wield. Machines capable of harnessing the energy of the sun, devices that could manipulate time and space, and most dangerously, experiments with immortality itself. It was said that they could extend life beyond natural limits, resurrect the dead, and even alter the fabric of reality. But what the Atlanteans did not realize was that there are powers in this universe that are not meant to be controlled. The more they pushed the boundaries of life, the more they strained the balance of nature. Their lust for immortality had disrupted the very laws of existence. It was as if the cosmos itself recoiled at their hubris. The gods took notice, and the judgment was swift. Poseidon, once their protector, saw what they had become. The people of Atlantis, his descendants, had forgotten the sacred balance between mankind and the divine. They had sought to rule the earth and the seas, to cheat death and control the very forces of nature. They had forgotten the lessons of humility and reverence. Now they would pay the price. The gods convened on Mount Olympus, debating the fate of the island. The council was divided. Some gods believed the Atlanteans still had a chance to repent, while others saw them as beyond saving. But Poseidon, the god who had once created Atlantis, was resolute. He knew that the Atlanteans' ambition had gone too far. Their defiance had triggered a chain of events that could no longer be stopped. The gods had no choice but to act. And so Poseidon, filled with rage and sorrow, unleashed the fury of the seas upon his creation. The earth trembled as massive earthquakes wrecked the island, splitting the ground open and sending entire cities crumbling into the abyss. Waves taller than the tallest towers surged from the ocean, swallowing the once great citadels. The skies darkened as lightning crackled, striking the temples and palaces that had once stood as symbols of divine favor. Fire rained down, igniting everything it touched, burning the golden structures that had once glittered under the sun. The ocean, furious and relentless, claimed the land that had once been so proud. It wasn't just the physical destruction that devastated Atlantis. The very technologies they had relied on turned against them. Their machines, powered by forces beyond their understanding, malfunctioned and exploded, causing further chaos and destruction. The immortality rituals they had attempted to perfect backfired. Instead of granting eternal life, they unleashed horrific consequences. Those who had undergone the rites were trapped between life and death, neither living nor dead. Their souls torn from their bodies in torment. Atlantis had reached its peak, but it had pushed too far, too fast. The thirst for power, the desire to control the forces of nature, and the attempt to defy death itself had caused a ripple in the fabric of reality, a ripple that no civilization, no matter how advanced, could survive. As we reflect on the downfall of Atlantis, we see a civilization that reached for the stars, grasping for power and immortality without understanding the consequences of their actions. The gods who had once blessed Atlantis with wealth, wisdom and power watched as their creation crossed a line between greatness and destruction. The Atlanteans believed they could master the forces of nature, conquer death and shape the world to their will. But in their pursuit of more, they were undone. It was not a single event that led to their fall, but the unchecked ambition of a civilization that believed it could surpass the gods. From their innovations in technology to their experiments with immortality, they challenged the very laws of existence. And in the end, it was those very powers that turned against them, wiping Atlantis from the face of the earth in a single, catastrophic moment. The ruins of Atlantis, now lost beneath the sea, remain a reminder of the dangers of overreaching. The lessons of their downfall are timeless, they echo through history, warning us all that no matter how far we advance, there are limits we must respect. The gods may no longer walk among us, but the stories of Atlantis continue to resonate, a cautionary tale of what happens when ambition blinds us to the fragile nature of our existence. But did the story of Atlantis live on through the echoes of other ancient civilizations? In our next exploration, we'll journey the distant reaches of the Mediterranean and beyond, seeking connections between the Minoans, the mysterious Rishat structure, and the lost city of Atlantis itself. Could these cultures have shared more than just ancient technologies? Could they be the key to understanding Atlantis' true legacy? Until then, remember, history is written in mystery.